to what is going to be the second episode of the Indy Ball Insider Podcast. I am joined by Ryan and Nick of the Indy Ball Report podcast, of course, Indy Ball Nation as well. Guys, pleasure to have you here with me today. Super excited to kind of just talk about Indy Ball for a little bit and get to know you guys.
Yeah, happy to be here. Also love the rally pickle behind you. That's a great touch.
Thank you.
Love the intro of Indy Ball Report and also Indy Ball Nation. That's fair.
I mean, hey, you set
It's almost
yourself
like I
up.
haven't dropped content in 4 months.
Yeah, we put the important people first, Ryan.
Right.
You know this.
And
To
to
be
be
fair, I am
fair, before we
mostly,
started recording, you set yourself up for that one. So,
That's also, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, look, I am in the world of, sports cars and heavy duty vehicles. I am riding in a sidecar crying out loud as Nick drives. That is where I am in this.
Fair enough. Everybody's got to have the sidecar participant, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Worst
and I'm not
part
a
is
helpful
it's a
one.
sidecar in a Toyota Camry.
He's like, "Do you have any snacks?" I'm like, "No."
Pretzels.
I can't hear you over the sound of my sobbing, brother.
Uh,
Pretzels, shut up.
I was waiting for that one to click.
It was one time.
He's a little slow. It's okay.
We are a minute into this and we are all over the head of the listener at this point, just pre-referencing things.
Well, to get things started, I just want people to kind of get to know your guys' path into kind of what you do now as far as covering indie ball and kind of the armchair analyst position that we all have. Just kind of interesting to see what drives people and their interest into getting into that kind of stuff. So I want to hear from you guys. Where did that interest kind of spark and how has that gotten you to where you are at right now?
Ryan, you want to take that lead or do you want me
Oh,
to
I was
take it?
gonna hand it off to you because you've been in it longer, and I can
Fair
just be
enough.
like, yeah, you
And
sort
he's
of
the
back
more
in the
important
day.
one, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I
I was being
am about to go
magnanimous and
make a
gracious.
burrito if you don't settle down.
Your problem later. Anyways, for now, I'll take lead because you're not able to do that because you got pretzels or something to deal with. Now, as far as how I got started and all of it, it goes back a while. Like when I was a really young kid, I used to go to North Bear games, that
Hmm.
obviously Atlantic League, to see like Ricky Henderson, Armando Benitez, all those types of guys. And then obviously as time went on, they weren't there. So then go to Somerset, go to the Jackals that were probably a 20-minute drive from my house. So I kind of was just used to that growing up. It'd be like one Met game a year and then a bunch of
Sure.
indie ball because that was what was accessible. And so it was like that for a while, and then got a little bit older. And me and my friends were looking for something to do, so I was like, "Yeah, we'll go to like a Jackals game, or I think would have been a little bit after Skyhawks, so maybe very early minors, something like that." And we just start going to that. And I was like, "Oh, this is really interesting." And so you fast forward a little bit to around 2018, going to be a junior at that point. As a comm major, I was like, "Oh, let me see something to do here." Found a radio and podcasting class. And I
Nice.
was like, once I got done with all that, I was like, I want to do a podcast of some sort. And I've said it before on a bunch of different other places, but I'll say it again because it's always amazing how close I came to really making a dumb decision, which was either indie ball or if you remember the American Alliance of Football or the Alliance of American Football, the
Ooh,
AAF. I
Mhm.
thought about that for a good minute.
wow.
And I was like, no, what? We'll do the indie ball because I can cover that in person. And there's more stuff that's local to me. And I know it a little bit better than I know football. I'm better at baseball than football. So I'll go that route.
There you
And
go.
then the AEF died 4 months later. So I was like, hey, dodge that bullet.
Yeah.
And so from there, I just kind of kept going on that track. And that's kind of what got me into it. And then from there, it's just been whatever this is. I guess the best way of describing it.
I mean, it's so funny because I feel like we're really hearing it for the first time. I've heard that story a few times. Now I'm
Yeah.
realizing we really did go opposite ways, Nick,
Yeah.
where he was like this slow path since his childhood. Mine, it was 2019, and honestly, I'd gotten a new job in March. I was like working for like the Catholic Church running youth programs and making obvious, with goes without saying, no money. And then in 2019, I got a different job, started making money. I was like, what do I do with this? I'm going to baseball games. And my wife and I went to like 20, like a baseball game every week, essentially. We
Wow.
have a great deal, which is I love baseball. She loves shopping at baseball games and getting merch. So sick. Both love baseball food. It all works together. And so we went, and then all of a sudden, like minor league ended. And from where we were,
Mm.
The Phillies are my local team, but it is a little bit of a headache to get to a lot of the time because if you know the Philly highway system, it's designed by Satan himself. And the so I was like looking at other options and other things we could do, also cheaper. And I'd never been to an indie ball game, and I was like, "Hey, man, like, I think I found something." We went to a Lancaster Stormers game. We went to, I believe, a Somerset Patriots game. No, a York Revolution game, and then a Somerset Patriots game, like 3 weekends in a row. And I, at that time, had also just stopped playing. I was playing like semi-pro rugby for years, and I just called it on that. And I was like, I need something to do that makes me feel more alive than this new corporate job. And I decided, I think I'm going to get into following and covering indie ball. And my wife was like, that's a totally normal decision. Okay, babe. And then I started off January 1st, 2020. Did a lot of preseason preview stuff, did a lot of like roster building stuff, did a lot of projection stuff, like just because I like more the numbers side. Nick
Right.
is all vibe. And I just got so into it. And then the season got canceled for everybody. And yeah, so that
Well, all
created
but
me
one league,
getting
but yeah.
super acquainted with the history of indie ball because there wasn't much else to do. Oh, I'm
Sure.
sorry, I should clarify. I only was doing Atlantic League at first. I was going to cover the Atlantic League.
Okay.
And then I did that with ALPB Roundup until I worked in the league at one point, and then after that, I don't know. I decided to expand it. What, 2 years ago, probably something like that. Maybe three. Oh,
Three,
three.
three, three,
And
three.
then
Yeah.
thank you, Nick. Thank you for knowing. Oh, I feel appreciated. Yeah, and I've just sort of grown into, it's over the past like year or two, I haven't done as much content as before because life has been crazy, but I'm
Mm.
kind of transitioning it more toward a mix of fast sort of like data focused stuff and some long deep dives into the stories in indie ball because that's kind of what I fell in love with. The weird things that happen, the weird
Yeah.
guys who are in it, like both from a good perspective and not always good perspective.
Right.
And I want to do more about that. So that's kind of where I'm at now.
Yeah, that's really cool. I was talking to Terry Bonadonna, who's the Thunderbolts
Yeah.
broadcaster.
Mhm.
We were doing
Yeah.
episode one together, and he and I were kind of just talking about the difference between like affiliated minor league ball and independent ball in that, and he literally said the words, affiliated ball is not fun. Like you don't
Yeah.
have easy access to the players, right? And I think the other thing he was harping on was like those teams basically only exist so that those guys can,
Mhm.
travel up the ranks of minor
Yep.
league baseball and
Yep.
they're not there for like the people, right?
Yep.
So
Yeah.
the one of the really fun aspects of indie ball is as fans, everybody has easy access to the players. They're cheap. You can go to those games. You can shop if you want. And all the good stuff that you really like want with Major League Baseball, but might not actually get, while you're also still getting the winning attitude, right? At the end of the day, the teams want to win. They want to put a good product on the field. So it's kind of that good mix of the kind of homey, minor league style, but with the same goals as a major league team. And to hear kind of those stories about like, oh yeah, I just kind of decided that this was cool. Like
Yeah.
that's just the most
Yeah.
indie ball thing ever. Like
Yeah.
Right.
Because
No
there's a
one.
certain element about it where like you understand these guys are trying to win, they're trying to perform, they're trying to do their best because
right,
that's the only way they're gonna get out of where they are.
exactly.
As opposed to just like he has good measurables. Great job. He's hitting 210 and he struck out however many times, but his hit rate, I mean, that's all we need to see. Send him to
Right.
double A.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I find that's one of my favorite things about indie ball is none of us got here on purpose. Nobody
Right.
said, "I know what the goal is."
Right.
Even the players, even the coaches.
Yep.
Now, like, there's a lot of guys who decide, like, this is now that I'm exposed to it, like, I want to stay here. This is my home.
Sure.
But yeah, it is a different spot, and I think it's kind of funny that we're all here and kind of it's an island of misfit toys in many ways. But you're right about the. I always felt minor league baseball is sort of a ladder that you can put on a house to climb up it, and indie ball is a house in itself. And yeah, you might
Yeah.
want to move someday, but there's a different vibe to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think another one of the fun aspects about indie ball is that everything's always changing, right? You've got like expansion to each of the leagues. You've got teams that fold. You've got, rules that change. So
Yeah.
even just looking at this offseason, right? We're seeing
Yeah.
a ton of change in the Pioneer League with those
Oh
teams kind
yeah.
of trying to figure out what the heck is going on.
Yeah.
Um, and then you've also got a schedule change in the Frontier League too, adding a couple games to that. So what about kind of the the just like year to year changes, because that to me is one of the coolest
Yeah.
part. How does that kind of, how do you guys look at that kind of stuff?
It always depends on the context from which it's happening for me,
Mhm.
Sure.
because some of it's interesting. Like the Frontier League schedule bit is interesting to me because I've talked to GMs there before where he's like, man, I hate when we have end of year homestands. They're a pain to sell.
Mm,
Like we can do it, but we have to work extra hard for it.
yeah.
So adding more on is interesting to me. But again, like the context matters there. So like with the Frontier for ex or the Pioneer, for example, it's interesting, but I'm also like, all right, this is about to be really expensive for you guys, and I
Yeah.
don't know what your end goal here is. Also, bonus points for Rocky Mountain, not formally saying we're done, but selling all their stuff and announcing
Right.
the garage sale
It's
before the
wild.
future plans.
Yeah.
It feels very much like upstairs told us we can't say this, but like kind of
Yeah.
piece it
Yeah.
together here if we're selling the furniture.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the change year to year in indie ball because, and again, comparing it back to affiliate ball, I do feel like affiliate ball changes tend to have this sort of, I won't get on the private equity soapbox. I'm not going to do it. What I'm saying is, I
You're a
think they have a
diamond,
more
mate.
a corporate feel to them, where so much about MLB is streamlining process.
Yeah.
And what's the point of this? It's to get our best result out of player development, keep guys moving. A lot of it comes down to streamlining that stuff. I think indie ball is where a lot of it. What are the changes for? Some of them are because we have to. We have no other option. Things aren't going well. Those I look at differently. But a lot of them, and by the way, particularly to the American Association, I think why I get fascinated by it is a lot of them are evolutions. A lot of them are,
Mm,
maybe not the next natural growth step, but an experimental step that they think will
right.
help. Doing AA baseball TV is a crazy
Yeah.
decision. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, these are madmen.
Yeah.
And in a good way. And I was like, there's 25 ways this can go wrong. There's a narrow path for it to go right. And we're seeing that it's been pretty successful. And it's, I think, of the leagues, the four major indie leagues, I think it's the best streaming situation of all of
Mm,
them. So like things like that are really cool. Specific to this Frontier League thing, Nick, I think you're
Yeah.
on it. I think yeah, it's a little odd that they're extending later into the year. I understand. I mean, honestly, I always thought I was a little surprised they didn't want to go, sooner, but I guess they're waiting on
Yeah.
people to get roster
yeah.
releases. But it's all
And
very,
also keep in mind where most of those teams are. A lot of them are also in northern climates. It's
yeah,
going
Sure.
to be a little colder. Already, Quebec barely plays at home for the first like third of the year. So
true. I guess
yeah,
September is warmer than
then
April. Is that what we got? May?
Yeah.
snow's
Yeah,
already on
it
the
would
ground
dip
for
into
snow
late April.
hasn't fallen yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus,
Yeah,
keep
yeah.
in mind, Quebec has a dome over their field. They have to take the dome down. They got like the inflatable thing.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
forgot
That
about
is
that. That's so
interesting.
yeah,
funny. They're so
yeah.
weird. I love Quebec.
But
And whatever they're doing, it's working. So
Yeah,
exactly.
something in the water up in Canada, apparently.
we had a perfect example too in that game, actually. I'm glad you brought this up of
Hmm.
what can happen if you do find your way out of indie ball for the players, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Trey Savage, who pitched that first game for Toronto, literally flew through the Toronto system in 1 year, from
Hmm.
single A all the way up to the big leagues. And I think to kind of continue what we've been talking about, like the uniqueness of, the players are there to win, right? And I think maybe the smallest similarity to affiliated ball is their goal isn't to stay there, right? Their goal
Hmm.
is, for most of them at least, they want to get back to the big leagues or to the big leagues or whatever it may be. And guys like Savage or any of the former indie ballers that we see in the major leagues today, like those are perfect examples of what could happen. And I think it's so cool that we have, you know, consistent, like we always got an example of that in the big leagues. And you can kind of compare them to guys who have been in the big leagues who are now in indie ball and, the different storylines. So you get both ends of the spectrum, right? And I think it's really cool that we get to see all of that at a close-up level. And even after the indie ball season's over, we're watching guys who have been in indie ball now competing for a World Series, right?
Yeah.
Right. And there's a weird thing I'm catching, and Nick, I feel like you might have also seen this too, where as I do get annoyed by some of the, as like almost a corporatization of minor league baseball and how it's becoming more streamlined, smaller draft classes, things like
Yeah.
that. I have a hard time pushing too loudly about it because I feel like everything that it pushes that direction does also help indie ball because indie ball is like the long route. It's the opposite of the Trey Savage route, where it's Trey Savage, probably a local kid, not going to flex it, but yeah, down the
Philly
road.
Catholic League.
Not Philly Catholic League, but he was in the
Oh,
Central League, I believe. So I always tell a story now that I've fully gotten to see it come full circle. Now I've mentioned like 7 times since Nick and I stumbled into it on the pod last
yep.
week or 2 weeks ago. The one of the coolest things I saw on the flip side of this, which is, there are less guys in affiliate ball right now. We threw a spring training invite to this kid Yarmil Geraldo, who was like
Oh,
living up in
nice. Yeah.
Milwaukee with his girlfriend. She drives him down to spring training while I was in Lexington. He shows up. We start doing live BP, and he's like thrown to our best batters, like Boog Powell, former MLB,
Yeah.
not the Boog Powell people, Anyway, and he throws 97 first toss, and we're like, oh, disgusting. Where were you? And now, I mean, he struggled a little bit year one. He had a really good year at Charleston the next year in Staten Island, and then he made the majors this year.
Right.
And that's a guy who the dream wouldn't have happened if it weren't for indie ball being there, being available, and like being like attentive to this. That guy he had fallen out. He hopped in the Arizona system. They did nothing with him for 3 years, and then that was it. Like there is a
Yeah.
really important role for the baseball ecosystem that isn't just for fun and excitement. It is actually really offering something valuable too. Especially as I think minor league baseball is looking for a lot of quick success guys whenever possible, and
Yeah.
not everybody's like that.
Yeah, yeah. You talk about like we're seeing guys get pulled up to the bigs younger and younger. I mean, you see 18-year-olds up there all the time now, and it like people don't even bat an eye anymore.
Yeah,
So then you think about like, the guys that they're pushing out or the affiliated spots that need to be filled, and it's like, all right, well, where are we pulling those guys from? And that's going to be indie ball, right? So
Yeah.
right.
it really is providing a service that MILB is kind of losing with the, shorter drafts and pulling guys up younger and all that.
Mm,
Mm.
yeah, which I'm in favor of. I love it.
Oh, I
That's my
totally
big one.
agree. Yeah,
Can I say a part of me did die inside a little bit seeing San Francisco pull that manager from Tennessee?
me too.
Because I was
Okay.
my under the radar thought has been I feel like indie ball is a big potential opportunity to find good coaching because it
Yeah.
is it's harder to get guys from affiliated anymore because everything you do in affiliated is so micromanaged from the top that
Mhm.
you managers are more personality
Yeah.
Yeah.
managing and executing plans. And you have to do so much more than that at the MLB level, and it's almost. I think it has more similarities to the coaching feel in indie ball. But watching, I was like, oh, they went to college. They went to D1. Uh-oh,
Yep.
that's
Yeah.
unfortunate.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
Tennessee.
right.
Yep.
Yeah. And the other problem with coaches too is a lot, I mean, specifically managers, but you see most managers in Major League Baseball are former players, right? And guys who have
Mhm.
a
Yeah.
big league repertoire.
Right.
And then like you mentioned, Ryan, the minor league managers and coaches are most of the time like 90% personality hires because, they want to create that culture that they're looking for and
Right.
they want guys who will do what the organization needs them to do.
Mhm.
So yeah, that is another unique aspect of indie ball, right? You've got much like the players, you've got a nice mix of guys who have been in the big leagues, whether as a player or as a coach, and then guys who have never done this before at a pro level, and it's it's so interesting to see all of those like different experiences interact. I think that's to me what is the most interesting part is when you've got a guy, pitching the majors for 3 years, albeit not very much and then he's pitching to a guy who's never played organized pro ball before. Like, and the manager is
Right.
somewhere in between, like all those kind of mixes and matches are so interesting to me.
And I think it's funny too as we watch because the guys you're excited about are very rarely like, I'm watching a game and I think I was watching Staten Island at Lancaster earlier this year and Panda's there, and
Right.
everyone's like, "Wow!" Like there's Pablo Sandoval,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I mean, yeah, but have you seen this third baseman that just came from the Pioneer League? Because I'm obsessed with him,
Yeah.
and I will become physically violent if he doesn't get enough playing time today. And again, my wife is like, "Well, I'm gonna go get a shirt," which is
Right.
great call by her again. But yeah, I think it's very fun too for sickos like us, so it's
Yeah.
perfect.
What's
Well,
the Nick, what's the
yeah.
promotional night that you keep telling them they need to do?
Union night.
Union night?
Oh,
Yeah,
Union
there you go.
night.
Union night. I love
Union
Union night
night.
so much. We had a little
Dude.
episode we just dropped today. I did a whole breakdown when I believe Union night is. First
Yeah.
Friday home
He's in
game
it.
in August. believe it's the 7th. It should be against King County. It's also firework night. I'm waiting for single game tickets to come out to confirm that because I can look at the seat map and see how many seats have purchased already.
Hmm?
Because it should be blocked off because I believe whatever union it is or the various participating unions should already have their group sales. So it should have sections
Right.
taken from it. So
I love how
I
in depth we've gone on this already, and we don't even have
I
single season ticket sales open yet, or single
we're
game.
in the weeds.
yeah.
If and I have high hopes too. They better be. I haven't seen the ins and outs of Union Night, only just sort of the quick
Yeah.
hits of it. They better in between innings, all the in-game promotions better be Union versus Union, which I don't love the vibe of turning the unions against each other. That's a
Right.
bigger point. But I think it would be electric, literally, because the electricians union's going to be huge. So,
Fair enough.
Yeah, but it's a steel town, Ryan. So it's steel town got the home field
I
advantage
know,
here,
but we're creating, well, we
which
used to create bigger
again,
things in Gary.
if Gary does not promote Jeff Isom as the big I beam, what are we doing here?
Fire yourself if you don't do it.
It's sitting right there. There's an I beam in the logo.
Yeah, yeah.
It's there. Take the easy win. And while we're just talking about Gary, because team is my obsession,
We
despite
just
not
turned
doing
this into
much
our
of
podcast.
anything.
Oh no.
Yes. It's the last point I'll do, and the last time I hijack it about this is please, for the love of God, release the promotional schedule before April.
Yep.
We went back and checked this so because it's part of the whole checking for when it's going to be.
We're
It
not
was
okay.
2 years at the end of March, 1 year in the middle of April, and the other one on May 1st. If you're waiting until May 1st to release your promotional schedule, what are you expecting to happen? The
That's
season starts in
crazy.
2 weeks. It should be out in like December so you can sell packages for Christmas. Please, at least the
So
bare bones of it.
for Nick's Christmas
The
present
bones of
this year,
it.
I think we've decided that Gary needs to release their promotional schedule.
They should. I would appreciate that so much.
I love it.
I want this so badly.
Anyway, I will get us back on track slightly, which was I do
Really
love when
will.
it comes to the managers and the sources of managers. That is one of my also favorite things about Frontier League, or all indie ball. But I was thinking Frontier League in particular because I kind of shadow PJ Phillips depending on what he's up to, just because him and I are friends. And I thought it was funny the one day I was watching him against Quebec, I think in the playoffs, and you have Scalabrini, who's like Quebec Capital's legend
Yep.
turn manager. On the other side, you have PJ, who is like Pacific Association dude. Didn't really make it. He did play for the Ducks, we'll clarify,
Sure.
but like spent
Yeah.
most of his time in Pacific Association. Got like a player manager job out of necessity because they needed one,
Mhm.
and then
Yeah.
managed that, and then ended up hopping with like the connection from Brandon into Lexington, won a championship, and then when Lexington ran out of money, he's all of a sudden in New Jersey. And so there's like this like weird like there's two paths and both of them are two of the better indie ball managers and I'm like, you could not have two more like different
Yeah.
humans. And and then I mean, half the time you see managers and it's like, I was thinking Jamie Keefe, who just got his contract extended in High Point, who's doing a great job, and he's just like as indie ball can be.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
like, half the time he's taking on like back in the day, he was taking on like Wally Backman and things like that. And I was like, that's so funny. Like,
Yeah.
where are we?
Right.
It's like a
Wally and
Mad
Pete
Lib
Incaviglia
sometimes.
too. Because
Oh,
Pete
can't
was
forget
Peter at too.
Incaviglia. We're not
Yeah.
going to start that
True.
can of worms on this podcast. We're not going to do that to you.
I've had Pete on before. Pete's an interesting guy.
As a Philly fan, I have Pete Incaviglia loyalties.
I mean, let's be
Yeah.
completely honest. Who in indie ball is not an interesting person? Like,
Ooh, well played.
Fair.
Yeah. Fair enough.
so I think the latter half, or however much we have left of this, I want to talk about.
Middle third.
Yeah, right.
The
I want
first
to talk.
eighth is now done.
I want to talk about 2026 because I think 2025 had a lot of, as every year does, a lot of very unique, maybe some troubling, but also some really fun aspects to it. And we can sit here and talk about, oh, I expect to see blah 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 in 26, and this team's going to do well and this team's going to do well, but you know, it's indie ball, right? Anything can happen. We're going to have, another weird situation, whether it's something like New Jersey or something, maybe not that scaled
Right.
up. There will be something that catches headlines that's just so kind of out there, that's the most indie ball thing that could happen. So kind of just talk about maybe what you guys are looking forward to in 26 or not looking forward to, if that may be the case. I know there's some changes that aren't necessarily finalized yet,
Yeah,
mainly the Pioneer League, and exactly
yeah,
what those teams will be. But there's a lot to look forward to, I think, good and bad.
yeah. Pioneer League's definitely 1 point for me, just because I want to see
Hmm.
how it all shakes out with
Yeah,
them. I
This is
mean,
a make or break year for them.
absolutely.
yeah, and like we know for a fact that their guys get paid over the state minimum wages. So going more into California is an interesting decision for me, just from an expenditure point. And I don't think it's a coincidence why all the Colorado teams aren't there anymore, when you could just go to, the lower cost states.
Right.
So that's an interesting one to me there. At least with California, there's more potential to make more.
Hmm.
But, I am curious to see how that shakes out. I will also say one thing I do disagree on is we do know one thing for certain, and that is a Quebec 5 Pete will happen because they're a
Yeah,
machine. You don't stop them.
Yep,
yeah,
absolutely.
facts. The situation in the Pioneer League, I root for across the board in a game, in a season, whatever's best, I think, for indie ball, because that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I want the Pioneer League to succeed so badly, and it can be frustrating because I mean, 2 years ago they looked really like they had some things going.
Yeah.
They were cooking. They were even up to a year ago. They were the Frontier League was losing guys to them, and it was
Yeah.
starting to be like a little oh okay we're is this moving out west? Because I mean, again, Midwest to the East Coast is where indie ball lives essentially, and then we have the Pioneer League doing their
Mhm.
thing. It was just very disheartening to see a lot of the struggles this year. It wasn't surprising as we learned more. The financial aspects are extremely difficult out there. They're minimal income teams, and running a team is getting more expensive, especially compared to being
Yeah.
affiliated, which these teams were generally. So it makes sense they're struggling, and I'm not going to go too deep in, but yeah, I want to see what they do. My thing, I'm interested to see the battle, the expansion battle going on in the East. I think
Mm.
keeping it off the field, I mean, there's a lot of on-field drama that we're interested in, like, well, Quebec 5 Pete, obviously. But I think it's really fascinating to see the the battle going on because it is Norwich situation last week is interesting. Will they go indie ball? Seems like Atlantic League has their hooks in them, which is crazy because it's in the middle of the Frontier League's footprint.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. And
know
I
there's
just
been
don't
talk
like that
about
setup.
for years of the American Association coming to Tennessee, but Tennessee's also the natural southern expansion point for for the Atlantic, and also
Yep.
now they're kind of in the middle of the Frontier League
Yeah.
footprint too because they reached the Mississippi. I mean, that creates a very interesting dynamic as well, and it tells us not only who can make the best case among the leagues to these cities, but also how do cities view these leagues? What do they
Mm.
think and what do they expect from their own team? It is a very daunting task to get involved with the Atlantic League. The Atlantic League is extremely expensive. The American Association is pared down a little bit when it comes to the expenses, but it's still pretty hard to operate with a tight budget. And then the Frontier League is a little more manageable, at least for a lot of these organizations, which I think is why we saw Mississippi seem to do well off the bat and
Yeah.
Kinston kind of step up and do a nice job. So all that's going to be really interesting as that pulls in. Staten Island's contract seems to be up the Atlantic League as long as nothing has
Mm.
changed. So after next year, it could be a moving part as well. So a lot to watch on that. And I'll point out, we're talking four peats. Pennsylvania holding the four peat in the Atlantic League right now. That Atlantic League title has lived for 4 straight years in a like 20-mile stretch of Pennsylvania roads. So I think that's one of the wildest things. And I cannot imagine the amount of like, what the hell from Long Island, who is just one of the most
Yeah.
all-in teams when it comes to winning. They
Yeah.
are about it. And just every time it's just some shenanigans from Pennsylvania farm country.
I'm glad you brought up the expansion because I know there's obvious questions in a couple of leagues, right? You talked about kind of the Atlantic League questions about them wanting to expand farther south and Long Island or Staten Island and all of that. So, you look at those and you have some questions. I've also heard personally from folks involved in the American Association that is the plan, right? They want to expand. It's just a matter
Mhm.
of when and exactly
Mhm.
where. And then there's the Frontier League too, which is like right now you've got
Yeah.
a weird number of teams. Adding two
Right.
more makes sense just for the
Mhm.
Yeah.
makeup of the league. And if you're high up in indie ball, you're also thinking, for the betterment of the league, right? Obviously, you have to think about the financials, but the more indie ball kind of gains traction, the more teams are going to help out too, because you've got more fronts and more mediums to kind of expose these players and this whole world of baseball to the general public. So, there is all the questions about the expansion. I think that's super cool. You've got just that complete like emptiness that is the South right now. I mean,
Mhm.
Mississippi, and you've got, I guess Lexington is technically South, kind of, but there's all that
It's the
space.
Midwest. It's the Midwest. Don't tell them. It's the Midwest.
Kentucky's borderline, I feel like. No,
I live there. It's the Midwest.
but yeah, you've got all that space in the South, and then you've got, like you mentioned, out west, right? All these teams kind of moving towards California, and then the Pioneer League kind of just being in its own world.
Mm.
And there's some interesting dynamics there about where, if teams are going to fight over some of those spots, if some of them don't work out. Mississippi is just its own strange thing because they're in that division with, Gateway and three Chicago teams. And it's like,
Right.
Yeah.
okay, so now they have to travel all the way up there all the time.
So what
Right.
we
I
need
mean,
is a fourth Chicago team.
Right, that's
well,
the obvious
I,
solution. Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, we do act like that isn't practically the setup that Cleburne has. I mean,
Right, exactly.
but because Cleburne has a track record of making it work, we kind of just let it ride.
Yep.
But like, I mean, at least it's not as egregious as the Sugarland expansion. That was wild
Yeah,
Yeah.
when they were in the
that's
Atlantic. But yeah, Mississippi, they have to be looking for like an active solution to that because that's
I mean, I
especially
would,
because the number one ownership concern in the frontier seems to be travel.
right, yeah. No, and I would imagine just from what I've heard that the solution they're hoping for is adding another team relatively close by and
Mm.
being able to kind of, mess with alignment a little bit to make it easier on them. But yeah, it really is just an interesting thing when you think about the future. I think there's so many things we could talk about, like, teams folding and where they're going to add new teams, but really it comes down to the leagues and where
yeah.
where they need more people. Um,
Yeah, it really that's a good point too. Yeah, because this all is under the assumption that things are going to continue to go well where there are teams, and
exactly. Right.
at least for the American and the Atlantic, there's been a lot of solidification, and there's been a
Yes.
minute of let's
Yeah.
take a breath because the
Yep.
Atlantic League felt like they were kind of frantic for a moment, and I think now there's at least a track record of like Hagerstown looks like it's successful and it's moving okay. The American Association's got a bunch of markets that are very comfortable operating in this. They've let Lake Country get good and settled in. Yeah, it's the other ones, the Frontier and the
Yeah.
Pioneer, that I feel like are really there's a push to expand or find solutions. And I mean, the current teams aren't even fully solidified. And I'm
Right.
like,
You
okay,
mean
bud.
you mean to tell me that there's a team that just got sold that's playing in a stadium that really isn't set up for baseball that needs to
Well,
figure it out? It's going to be sharing
no.
with 10 other
It's
people?
a high school football team. What?
What?
A women's pro football team? What?
Do they?
A
Good
Jersey
for them.
Shore Sharks, I think.
I love that you can pull that.
Passaic County, New
That's
Jersey.
You
impressive.
thought this podcast was operating in obscure sports before we got here.
That is, yeah, no, you're right. There's always a deeper level, right?
I
Just follow.
enjoy the resignation in that what you just said. And yeah,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
right.
Tend to do that to people.
You're gonna have to make some tough editing decisions. He's like, is this for
That's
anybody?
fair.
What are we doing?
Welcome to my
Truth be
world.
told, not really sure. We'll figure that out as we go.
You and me both. I don't know.
Once again, we're an indie ball. Like we're
Exactly.
never really sure.
Right.
Embrace the storm.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is that what this is?
Sure, something like that. Let's go Cosmos.
Ken, I'm gonna make a point. I don't know what the point is. I'm gonna kick it back to you. And you can do what you want.
Okay.
I think we don't talk enough about how weird the early years of the Frontier League were. And I just want to point out, if you ever want a deep dive pod, I'm already calling dibs on one topic, but we'll deal with it later. But the fact that like the Traverse City Beach Bums so recently won a championship in that league, like in the past decade, is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And mixed in there, I mean, the
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 Chillicothe
the
Pinks.
Johnstown Johnnies and Johnstown Steels, the London Werewolves existing for as long as they did and winning a title is crazy. I am calling dibs though on the six championship series losses from the Chillicothe Paints. I've already got feelers out for
The
those who
Buffalo
know
Bills of the
of
of
indie
indie
ball. I
ball.
mean, there's
Yeah.
no one like it. It is absurd. And for a 5 game series, which it can go either way, a few of them are three. That's a coin flip,
Right.
brother. How?
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
you 0 for 6? That's disgusting.
Check the Jackals record before the Can-Am League.
Oh,
They
fair.
It was a very fun time. If they'd win one, get beaten up by Quebec pretty much in either the second round or the final. Then they'd go like 4 years, they'd win one more, get beat up again by Quebec, and then that was just kind of the cycle for them at Yogi. It was like they'll win one like every 4 or 5 years, but in between is always Quebec just beating them up.
Oh.
Somebody's
Yeah, they won
always there's always
5
a bigger dog in the
championships.
fight, right? I mean,
Oh,
Exactly.
they did
unless you're
lose the.
Quebec.
Oh, they lost the league championship 5 years in a row. How is that going over my
Told you.
head? Oh,
Wow.
I
oh
told you,
no.
dude.
We're
Oh
already
God.
we're starting the deep dive right here, right now. Like this is
Exactly. This is an
No
every week
wonder
occurrence.
everything around that organization feels traumatized.
Dude, and Quebec immortalized that on their bus. If you ever see a picture of the Quebec bus, which I have, and I'll throw in the one group chat,
This doesn't
it
surprise me.
it has every year they won a championship on the bus, custom wrap and everything. So I can only assume they own the bus.
sure.
Quebec did to them
Yeah.
3 times.
Bingo, told you. This is a
Oh.
history. It was very much the case of this isn't a rivalry. They always beat us.
Yeah.
Oh.
It was,
Wow.
Oh
I
no.
told you, it was their
Ryan, are
history in
you
like the
okay?
northern and
Are
northeast
we?
like was phenomenal.
I'm just dibs on that video. Dibs on that video.
Go
Though I'm not
for
going to
it.
get sourcing on that. No one wants to talk to me over there. Well, no one's still there from that. It's fine.
Well, I just talked to people involved with Quebec.
Yeah, it's fair. I'm
He
already,
doesn't
yeah,
speak
I'm already.
French.
Bonjour. Help, please. I'm here. Don't be dumb.
Je ne parle François. Tu
That's
parles
better than
Albany.
you
grec?
guys can do.
Merci. I don't speak
Well,
French.
we've
I
ruined this
speak.
podcast.
I speak Russian. Thank you.
That's a great transition to. Thanks for coming on, guys. This was fun.
Très bien.
Yeah, that's about it. You gotta. He's like, man, what's up?
Yeah. He's like,
Yeah,
this,
man.
yeah, take it. Don't blame him.
No,
I
seriously
mean,
though.
But I appreciate the opportunity to hop on. It was fun.
this
Yeah,
is fun.
getting started. I got to talk to the other guys who are kind of as much off the hook as I am. So
Oh, we're
Yeah,
far further
that's one
off
way to
the
say
hook.
it. Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, it's
We
it's kind
yearn
of
for the
funny
hook.
and surreal, like to be here because I was you, and
right.
then I got on Nick's podcast as a guest and it threw me off. But I think the first thing I tried to do was the first thing I did was reach out to Nick about hopping on the podcast. He didn't respond. That's fine. But now I'm the
You
co-host. So
had good
jokes on him.
taste then.
This has been a long term me getting back at him by now being the co-host and ruining his pod. So it's really fun
Fair
though
enough.
because
Slow burn.
one, look at you getting off to a far better start than I did even, and there's a season going on, presumably next year. So great.
Yeah,
Oh, that's such
I
case.
did have a little bit of a boost in the immediate experience that I've had, so that did help a little bit. I know you had a stint as well there, but yeah,
Yeah.
having being as involved as I have over the last 2 years with different organizations, definitely gave me a little bit of a head start. So I'm definitely appreciative of that for sure. But yeah, thank you
Wow.
guys for doing this. This has been fun. We'll obviously keep doing the regular shenanigans. Oh,
Yep.
you know what I forgot to bring up?
How
Um,
Ryan forgot to do the rankings for the last month of the season.
well,
Brother,
no,
I'm sorry, I got a
True.
job, okay?
Well,
What I-
so do I. Deal.
Gross.
what I actually meant to bring up was I never officially announced, Ryan, you were by far last place in our playoff bracket challenge. And
Playoffs mean nothing.
right, exactly.
Vibes.
And Nick won. So I'm not gonna
Hey, vibes.
I'm
know
not gonna
vibes.
I'm not gonna hold you to anything. You can do what you want, but we had brought up one game for Nick paid for by Ryan. But if you
Yeah.
wanna mess with that agreement, be my guest. I'm not involved. So up to
I'll
you.
buy the
Hey,
Union Night
buddy.
tickets, Nick. Don't
Guess
worry
who's
about it.
paying for Union Night?
Yeah, buddy.
Well, there
Um,
you go. Yeah, it wasn't really close. I think once we hit the Atlantic League, I started to lose some traction. Nick and I were close until then, but
I had dude, my last place was made presentable by the Atlantic
oh,
League.
100%.
Thank
That was the
God.
only reason.
Thank
Yeah.
I always wonder, I'm like, if I lost my touch for the Atlantic League, no, Daddy still got it. But whatever
He
happens anywhere
lost
else,
500 at the roulette table, but he made 5 on blackjack.
Yeah.
Still got it.
Yep.
Chauncey Billups, baby. The I will not do the whole thing, but I will just say
Damon
the
Jones
point of
from
the
deep.
the point of the entire enterprise is to entertain us with baseball games. The point of it is not to decide who the best team is. I do not
Fair enough.
engage with the playoffs as much as I should. That said, if you're looking for a baseball operations person, definitely hit me up. I'll definitely be involved in the
Right.
championship run. I'll get us to the playoffs. I make no further promises.
Right. Hire Ryan. This is Ryan's official submission of his resume to all.
This
Indy Ball.
is the resume, dude. It
You're
is
doing
a
it
work
again.
of art, and it is impressionist at best.
I love Nick just being like, "Here we go."
He's
Done
like,
this several times.
he's like, wow, I've not
I keep
brought
editing
enough
it
beers
so
to
a way
this.
that we know I'm not going to lose a co-host.
I love it.
Fair enough. You think I wouldn't keep co-hosting? You kidding me? No. But here's my thing. Joke's on
It's a
you.
game in
I'm
the
not giving my
background.
resume. I'm not giving my resume on the podcast anymore. I'm reading off job openings for second baseman. Like, what are you
Right,
doing?
right.
I'm using the pod for that now, dude.
Just like if you can play the middle infield and you are a slap hitter that presumably hits the left, then here's my phone number.
Yeah.
That seemed very vibe based of you, not analytics vibe, but we'll deal with that on our podcast. We'll take
Well,
that
one of
fight
us knows how to win a championship.
we'll
The other
take
one
that
doesn't.
fight in the house.
Take that fight to another Zoom call. All right.
Okay, fine.
All right, guys. Thanks for doing
Yeah.
this. This was fun.
Yeah.
We'll keep talking baseball. I'm looking forward to 2026.